Thank you. Good evening and welcome everyone to the Ravenswood City School District Governing Board meeting of June 9th, 2022. I will begin by taking roll. Vice President Shabomahin, Trustee Alexander. Here. Trustee Polito. Trustee Bloom. Here. I myself am present. Quorum is present. Just to note, Vice President Shabomahin is out sick. Moving on to item number 2, which is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any questions or comments regarding the agenda? As I see none, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries 3-0. Moving into item number 3, which is closed session. Before we go into closed session, we will open the floor to the public for anyone who wishes to address any matters that will be discussed during closed session. As I see none, we will go into closed session at 6:35 p.m. Thank you. Good evening and welcome everybody back to open session. We will resume at 7:27 PM and I will make note that trustee Polito joined us during closed session. Moving on to items that were discussed during closed session. For item 4A, there was discussion and action was taken. For item 4B, there was discussion. For item 4BA, there was discussion. For item 4C, there was discussion. For item 4D, there was discussion. And for item EA, there was discussion and direction was given. Now we will move on to item number 5, item number 7, which is from the floor. So if anybody wishes to address the board on any matters that aren't in this agenda, this is your time. Do we have any speaker slips?
No.
As I see none, we will move on to item number 8, which is the consent agenda. Do we have any questions or comments regarding item 8? As I see none, I will entertain a motion for item 8.
I'll make a motion that we approve item 8 consent agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Now moving on to number 9, which is the superintendent's report.
Thank you. We're going to get the presentation set up here. We will be covering again the 3 major areas of learning and development, health and safety, leadership and community. And we'll start off on slide 3, focusing on leadership and community highlights. Fantastic. And we're going to focus on Measure I. We have a document before you that was written by, at the bottom there, Shin Green, the principal of East Shore Consulting. And I'll be just paraphrasing some statements from this letter, just highlighting the success that we had thus far with Measure I. If we can go to the next slide. So with Measure I, which is a general obligation bond measure, we have preliminary results as of June 7th, where it looks like we have an approval of just over 68% of the voters based on current counts from this week's election. You may already know that Measure I is the 3rd general obligation bond measure pursued by the district in the past decade. And the district will be able to continue its efforts to modernize all Ravenswood schools because of this bond that was passed. In comparison to the other measures that were on the ballot, we have a higher percentage passing there. And actually, there is one measure that looks like it was below the criteria to be able to be approved. On the next slide. The district's preliminary approval rate of 68.806% ranks as the highest approval rate for the school general bond election in San Mateo County. And we actually have a strong election results reflects the community's continued support for the district and the bonds that we had in the past, including the parcel tax in 2018. The county looks like it will certify this official final results in about a month. And that's when we can ratify those results at probably the August board meeting on August 11th. And then that's when we'll be able to access the funds so that we continue the facilities improvements like the ones that we're doing currently at the Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School. And then we'll be able to now with these funds be able to focus on modernizing our classrooms at Bellhaven Elementary School, Castaña School of the Arts, and Los Robles Ronald McNair.
Just a clarifying question. Do we know voter turnout for this election?
I'm not sure, maybe our CDO might have it offhand, but I want to say it's over 800 voters as of June 7th. Again, you have ballots that are still coming in between June 2nd and June 7th, which are mail-in ballots.
Is that just for East Palo Alto? Is that also Bellhaven?
It'll also be the Bellhaven area.
All right, thank you.
Yes. And so the next slide, we just want to say thank you to all the participants. As you know, Trustee Bloom was a chair as a citizen supporting this campaign. And we've had many weekends where community members, staff members, future staff members came out and did precinct walking. We also had Trustee Alexander out there, also campaigning on our days off. And so congratulations. Ravenswood, and of course, all the community members and folks helping us get this accomplished.
Through the chair. I just want to really say thank you to our community. I know this was a really hard year to vote, to say yes, to raise your taxes. And so this is just something that I truly appreciate. I know that the whole board appreciates because this directly affects all of the kids in our community. So we are so thankful for all of your support, continued support, and continued seeing the work that's been being done on our facilities, and also just for the plan that was made and continuing, you know, the work that was done even before us, right? Like before we even got to vote on Measure I. I'm very thankful for that. And I know that this bond will definitely, like our superintendent Sadaria said, you know, is definitely going to help us make all of our facilities excellent. And I will go on to say the most excellent facilities in the county, especially our middle school, will be the most excellent facility when it's finished. So I am excited, and I'm just happy that we have this support. And I really encourage our community to continue to come out and see our schools so they can see the work that's being done and that will be done. So thank you so much for your support. And we really hope that you guys continue to feel the effects of saying yes to this and investing in our schools.
Continue. On the next slide, for in terms of learning and development, just reminders that all the trustees received a link with all the upcoming events, and really we only have technically Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday left of 21-22 school year. Our fifth graders will have promotion ceremonies along with kinder here and there, but our Sister Chavez Ravenswood Middle School promotion is on the 14th at 5 o'clock, and it's going to be held at the thank you, Rich Mayfield, behind St. Francis. Okay, on the next slide, you will see here that we had our 8th grade students who came back just a couple days ago go to Washington, D.C. 80 of our 8th grade students. We had 10 chaperones who also attended. Teacher Andrea Reyna and Nicole Sullivan provided stories on their social media for us all to like live vicariously through their fun. And you can see them relaxing in the bottom right-hand corner, the chaperones. On the left side, Nicole escorting the troops up the escalator in the airport, and then Teacher Reyna on the airplane with a student there. I just read over some of the comments made, and Andrea Reyna mentioned that on their last day in DC, they visited the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, and also the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. When the day before, they visited the Capitol and were able to be able to take a tour there. And on their way out, they realized that Madam Speaker was actually in the office as they were walking by. So they were just on the other side of the door, hoping that they could have had a chance to meet her, but that opportunity didn't happen, but so close. They also, unlike my experience when I went to DC in middle school, they received a different perspective of the history of our nation from times maybe when you may have attended. And students heard from a direct descendant of an enslaved person who built the University of Virginia. The top right photo of students, they are standing in the kitchen of Thomas Jefferson's home, where James Hemings, and Andrea Reyna was sharing this on her social media. James Hemings, a French-trained chef enslaved by Thomas Jefferson, created mac and cheese there. And Teacher Reyna shared in her post that students were engrossed in a tour that uplifted the stories of the Hemings and the Fawcett families and other enslaved people. And our students not only expected to hear these stories at the center of the narrative of US history, but they also made sure others did too, in the sense that when they went to the Jamestown colony, Principal Kemp mentioned that when asked, what is this settlement famous for? An 8th grade student of ours responded, the birth of racism. So they were very much, they definitely took this tour to experience learning more about the American history, but they also came with a critical lens. So very proud of just their leadership too. If you click on the White House visit there, Michael, for us, you can also see how much fun they had while waiting for their tours. And you might notice some people in the back wanting to join them. You might see Nicole Sullivan and teacher Kyle there too in the back. But they had a good time. Thank you, Mike. We can go to the next slide. So they had a good time. Respectfully had a good time. On our next slide, Castaño School of the Arts, our turnaround art school, produced Disney's Aladdin Jr., which is a musical. And so you can, they did a matinee yesterday, and tonight you all couldn't attend because they have a show tonight as happened. So I apologize, but you'll be able to see the trailer here if we were to click on that right now. And this is their 5th musical.
Through the chair. I just want to let Superintendent Sidari and the community know that I attended the show yesterday for the student matinee. It was fabulous considering everything that the kids went through in the production of this. Absences due to COVID, school being limited. They gave a really wonderful ensemble production of Aladdin Jr. with some truly standout solo singers. It was amazing. If anybody has a chance to see it tomorrow night, I strongly recommend it.
It's good.
I also saw it, so I agree. And there is a showing tomorrow at 6.
Oh, there is. Okay, great. Yeah.
Tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Very good. All right. The health and safety, we'll focus more on the health part here this time around and focus on vision to learn. And so Trustee Alexandra was with us today as well. And this was held there was a specific ceremony held at Belhaven School this morning at 10. We can go to the next slide. And so Vision to Learn provides free eye exams and free eyeglasses to elementary students. They originated in Southern California. They wanted to expand up here in the Bay Area in San Mateo County. Because of the donation from the Sobrato Foundation, we were able to, and Measure K from the county, we were able to benefit from this opportunity along with other districts in San Mateo County. The president, Vision to Learn, Ann Hollister, our county supervisor, David Canepa, who was just elected, County Executive Mike Callaghy, Health Plan of San Mateo CEO Patrick Curran, along with John Sobrato of Sobrato Philanthropies, were present today just to celebrate the fact that we were able to provide students with this free vision screening as well as providing students with eyeglasses. At Bellhaven alone, there are over 60 students who received glasses. And they visited all of our schools. Los Robles will have this opportunity in the fall. And so you see a couple of pictures there, an excited young man with David Canepa there, our supervisor. And then 2 middle school students on the right. And just imagining being able to like see clearly for the first time after several years. The students were really very much excited. So there's also a lot of people in the district who supported this. And I want to thank Gabriel Anguiano, our community and family engagement really supported, as well as our nurses, our nurse Manuel Villegas and our health aide Maria Reyes. Our office managers, Miss Lucy, our reach coordinators at the sites had done a phenomenal job to orchestrate the screening, the scheduling, and making sure our students get the glasses as of last week. Cindy Chin, our director of student services, also helped make the connection to Vision to Learn. So we're very grateful. Any comments, Trustee Alexander or Mrs. Spin?
It was a lot of fun watching the kids get their glasses.
All right, and that's the end of the superintendent report. Okay, we'll go ahead and move to the next item. So the staff core recognition. One of our strategic priorities is to recognize our core values across our communities. And our HR director, Tony Stone, had established the process of being able to recognize staff and their demonstration and exhibition of our core values. And our core values for this month is recognizing staff for excellence, where we hold high expectations for ourselves and for all students. And so, of course, as you know, we would love the board to participate in reading the nominations to recognize our staff. And so if we can go to the next slide and start with, as we're focusing on excellence, core value, Guadalupe Maciel, who is our administrative assistant at Bellhaven Elementary. And she was nominated by the principal, Michelle Masuda Lee. And if I could have a trustee who has good eyesight to read that from where they are sitting. Maybe go in order.
Sure, I can start. So it says, I also have it.
Oh, great.
Okay, so I would like to nominate our administrative assistant, Lupe Maciel, to be recognized for the core value of excellence. She is a rock star for our school, and I believe she doesn't receive enough credit for all that she does. In my eyes, Lupe is the epitome of excellence. She is at school early in the morning, to prepare for the day and frequently stays late to finish up all the work. Sorry, guys. I'm just so thankful for the staff. Okay. Lupe has the brain of a saint. She is able to remember everything from a parent's name to what budget code we should use to purchase something. Lupe covers all bases and is the real principal around school. She handles all our bloody noses, gives love to those who need it, deals with behavior, makes numerous phone calls home, and always completes her checklist of things that I ask her to do. Throughout all of the stress, Lupe always keeps her cool and stays calm. She puts up with the good, the bad, the ugly on a daily basis. She understands how much our students need stability, and she still comes back year after year to serve our students. Because of this, Lupe is not only my rock, but Bellhaven's rock.
Ms. Lupe, did you want to, I know you're not one to want to come to the mic, but is there anything you want to share? Do you mind standing so we can see who, everyone can see who you are? Because if you don't mind coming to the mic, but then people who are online can also see the wonderful person we are speaking up, but no need to have to speak. But this is Miss Guadalupe Maciel.
Well,
Good evening. I'm very thankful. Um, oh my God, I just don't like to be in the center of attention, but I do appreciate Miss Masuda. I just love the community. I love working with the staff, the students, the parents. I just hope that I continue being part of this community. But thank you, appreciate it.
All right, we are going to move on to our next person to recognize, and that is Rachel Spector, who is our ELA Social Studies instructional coach at Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School.
Rachel Spector embodies excellence and holds us all accountable every day to strive for excellence to better serve our community and do right by ourselves, our students, and our families. Rachel had an instant impact when she returned to Ravenswood as an instructional coach at the CCRMS after teaching in Brazil and Mexico. Rachel is an integral part of our instructional leadership team at CCRMS. She embodies a core value of excellence because she is a visionary. Rachel demonstrates excellence by her commitment to ensuring that all students are receiving high quality, equitable educational opportunities in every single classroom. High quality, student-centered instruction is an anti-racist classroom. She understands the conversations as well as the systems necessary to make change. She embodies excellence by leading with a vulnerable heart, facilitating conversations that challenge us all to think about equity, detours that exist, and to honor all of our strengths to be solutionaries. She inspires us all to be better and provides us a space for us all to be better together.
Rachel, do you mind please coming to the podium so everyone who also might be seeing can see who we are speaking about?
Well, let me say, Kyle, who wrote that.
Yes.
That speaks to her as well. I mean, the team that we have at CCRMS and the work we're doing is exciting, and we're just getting started. We're getting ready to work, and especially with the anti-racist work that lays ahead, we have a great team. Let's do it.
Thank you, Rachel. We'll go to the next slide. All right, we will now be honoring Alexis Hamilton, who is the art teacher at Los Robles Ronald McNair Academy, who's watching from a distance online, and Christy Alexander. We'll read the nomination from Nico Janet.
So this is for Alexis Hamilton, written by Nico Janik. Alexis Hamilton embodies the core value of excellence. When you enter her art room, you see students actively engaged in multiple and varied projects, creating and following their own interests and passions. It is a student-centered learning at its best. I was in her room today as students were eagerly putting final touches on projects for the arts night. 2 students had built a scale model of a restaurant, complete with clay French fries and burgers, and multiple tables with matching tablecloths. One student was writing code to make a giant cat robot wave its arm up and down, while another robot dog will wag its tail when you feed it. 3 students were practicing teaching paper making so they could teach parents how to do it at art night. Other students made their own stuffed squishies out of paper, stuffing, and packing tape. It takes an extraordinary and amazing teacher to set up an environment where students have the freedom and responsibility to create this diversity of work. All students were developing their craft as artists, engaging and persisting through challenges, communicating and collaborating with fellow artists. But all students were doing that in the medium of their choice, with some limits. The work that happened throughout this entire year to lead to the buzzing studio I saw today speaks to me of an excellent teacher. I think Alexis definitely deserves an excellence mug. And through the chair, I'd like to say that as a teacher at Bellhaven, I had the unique and wonderful opportunity to teach with both Alexis and Rachel. And I consider myself very lucky to have spent time teaching with both of them.
And through the chair, I want to also personally thank Tony Stone, our HR director, for helping us launch our staff recognition. And we hope to be able to continue that. So thank you, Tony. All right, we are now on item. We're good.
Okay, we'll be moving on to item number 11, which is the consideration to approve the 2022-2023 management salary schedule.
Good evening, trustees. Tonight I'm presenting the last of our negotiations to update and realign our salary schedules. Going into sort of this year, or for most of this year, I should say, our principals and our managerial staff have been the lowest paid or among the lowest paid in the county. The increase that we're bringing tonight for approval would bring our school leadership team into the top third of the county and our district administrators to the average, so the median. So school leaders going to the top third, aligned with our CSCA staff and aligned with our RTA staff. Managerial will still be sort of compensated in line with the rest of the county, but below sort of percentile wise, the rest of the region. To be clear, in the short term, these increases are being paid for through the Ravenswood Education Foundation, just as we did with CSCA and RTA. In the longer term, the intent is still to pay for these increases, as we are doing with CSCA and RTA, through the leases at this site, 2120 Euclid, and the Flood School site. When I say that our positions today are the lowest in the county, I know some folks have seen this graph before, but just to reiterate, you can see on the left, just the percentile. So what percent of people are above and what percent of people are below. Our teachers starting out this year, we're in the bottom fifth of the county. CSCA varied by position. Some were above average, some were below average. And then you can see sort of the middle there, our principals and vice principals, they are the lowest paid in the county or have been the lowest paid in the county. And central office is somewhere between, in the case of our directors, maybe the 10th percentile. In the case of our coordinators, actually close to average. These increases close, or the proposed increase, I should say, close these gaps. They bring our teachers into the top third, our classified staff into the top third, and it brings our, as you can see in the percentiles here, our management staff into sort of the average of the county. So we're sort of in line with the typical district of the county. I have a couple just slides I'll go through quickly in benchmarking. You can see here in red, the solid red line represents our principals. You can see that every step along their tenure, they were the lowest paid in the county. We brought them up to that red line. That's sort of where the top third is. And you can see a similar analysis for our coordinators, directors, and chiefs. Our coordinators, close-ish to the average, directors quite a bit below, and our chiefs and assistant superintendent type roles are quite a bit below. This new salary schedule, I know it's hard to see, does close these gaps. That concludes my presentation.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you.
As I see none, I will entertain a motion for item number 11.
I will make a motion to approve item number 11.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item number 12, which is the consideration to approve personnel recommendations.
As we have done in the past, typically the personnel recommendations are on the consent agenda, but considering the fact that we are recognizing critical new members of the team, we thought we would make this more formal. And so if we don't mind, Mike, if we go back to the superintendent report, and it's the slides at the end. The superintendent report. It's slide 13. So as we formally shared with the Board of Trustees during our board meeting on March 12th, we announced plans to streamline the functions and responsibilities of staff in our district central office to advance the strategic plan in support for students and schools. This simpler and smaller organization chart means more resources in schools and a better focus for our team on improving instruction. So tonight, I am recommending several new leadership team members to Ravenswood City School District Board of Trustees to join the team for the 22-23 school year, including a new assistant superintendent of teaching and learning and a chief strategy officer. But before we begin, I would like to make sure we highlight some members that we appointed earlier in the spring to new roles. I would like to start with our Executive Director of Technology, Solomon Hill, on slide 14. Solomon is not available with us today, but he set up Michael and Sue Ellen to make sure that we are successful tonight. But Solomon P. Hill has 33 years of experience in applying information technologies to solving human problems. Since 2001, he has been the Director of Technology at the Ravenswood City School District, focusing on using technology to improve student learning. Solomon previously served as an advisory board member of the East Palo Alto Digital Village, helping implement this digital village signature projects such as the Bellhaven School One-to-One e-learning laptop initiative and the Wi-Fi 101 community wireless project. Before coming to Ravenswood, Solomon co-founded an internet startup company aimed at enabling minority-owned businesses to engage in e-commerce. Solomon also served as the network systems administrator for Mills College in Oakland, California. Previously, Solomon implemented and managed a computer education program for impoverished youth, computers and youth, while serving as youth education coordinator at Glide Memorial Church in San Francisco. Following his undergraduate work at Stanford in physics, Solomon was a research assistant at IBM's Almaden Research Center, working on the magnet resistance of thin films. I don't know what that means, but that's what he did. And Solomon is proud to have grown up in Daly City, California, during the rise of the great hip hop DJs scratch battles. All right, the next slide. And here we'll be recognizing our Executive Director of Educational Services, Jennifer Gravam, who is with us here tonight and will be presenting later on this evening as well. Jennifer Gravam, a Bay Area native, is beginning her 10th year in Ravenswood and 20th year in education. She began her career as a high school English avid and special education teacher. Before joining the Ravenswood team, she served as an assistant principal at the middle school and high school level. During her time with Ravenswood, Ms. Gravam has served as an assistant principal at Bellhaven Elementary School, principal of Ronald McNair Academy when it was Ronald McNair Academy, and principal of Brentwood Academy. For the past few years, she has been the director of special education. Ms. Gravam is passionate about equity and is dedicated to supporting children, families, and staff in our community. And thank you, Ms. Gravam. All right, and on the next slide, we will be introducing our Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. And she's here as well. Sarah Stone has committed her 26-year career in education to creating equitable, welcoming, and joyful experiences for every child. Ms. Stone began her career as an educator in Redwood City, where she worked for 7 years as a 5th and 7th grade teacher. She moved into a leadership position with Oakland Unified School District as a design team leader and founding principal for Rise Community School. From there, she held the role of principal for 10 years with both Oakland Unified Schools and Boston Public Schools, honing her skills in trauma-informed and inclusive practices. She took the role as network superintendent with OUSD, supervising 19 diverse schools across Oakland for 6 years. She held the position of chief academic officer with Alameda Unified Schools prior to becoming the vice president of teaching and learning with Chabot Space and Science Center. Sarah Stone grew up in Oakland and attended Oakland and San Francisco schools. For college, she attended University of California at Santa Cruz, where she received her BA in politics. She has a master's in teaching from John F. Kennedy University, Sarah enjoys spending her free time reading about true crime, hiking, and spending time with her husband, 2 sons, and a dog. Ms. Stone has brought a focus on building culturally responsive leaders and practitioners into every position she has held. As an educational leader, she is driven by integrity, empowerment, courage, collaboration, innovation, and keeping students at the center. She brings a deep commitment to building upon the assets of diverse communities to create high-quality learning experiences and a socially just education system. Ms. Stone is thrilled to be joining the Ravenswood City School District, where she can take her experiences as an educational leader and work in collaboration with the community to create the conditions where students are empowered to reach their unique potential. And that is Miss Sarah Stone. I could have her come up, but we can wait until the end. What would you like to do? Miss Stone, please come up. This is Miss Sarah Stone. Do you want to say any quick comments?
I'm, as I said in my bio, I'm just absolutely thrilled to be a part of this community. It has felt incredibly natural as I went through the process and just in my short time already, I feel really connected and I'm really excited to do the work together and look forward to meeting all of you more personally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Okay. We'll go on to the next slide. We are pleased to present to you our proposed Chief Strategy Officer, Dr. Cylindra McRae. With a doctorate of education and focus on social justice and equity, Dr. McRae brings many years of experience as an educator, administrator, and program manager with public, private, and higher education settings. Most recently, Dr. McRae held a Director Special Assistant to the Superintendent role for the African American Achievement and Leadership Initiative, ALLI, in San Francisco Unified School District. Prior to that, she worked in the Oakland Unified School District and coached leaders around human capital growth and development. Dr. McRae has also served as an adjunct professor at San Francisco State University, where she has taught in both the Department of Elementary Education and Department of Criminal Justice Studies, leveraging her research, which centers on mitigating the classroom effects of implicit bias on minority student achievement. In her spare time, she enjoys spending time with her daughter, Natalia, who is a rising junior in high school and is an avid athlete. Dr. McRae, please come up. Any comments you would like to share?
Yes, thank you. So good evening. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here. I've really been able to feel the warmth and the welcome of the community. And I look forward to serving alongside of each one of you as we focus on centering our student experiences. So thank you.
Really quick before we continue, this is just a reminder that during the board meeting, if you could silence your phones or any other notifications, thank you.
All right, well, we are pleased to also share with you our proposed Director of Human Resources, Joan O'Neill. Joan O'Neill has spent 10 plus years working in education in the Bay Area, coming most recently from the San Francisco Unified School District. As a director in San Francisco Unified School District, Joan oversaw a range of functions, including employee evaluations, data management, COVID-19 compliance, employee discipline, and all that comes with HR. She has created, for example, end-to-end infrastructure for performance review for 9,000 plus employees, increasing completion from 40% to 90% by providing training and iterations of support to ensure success, as well as having developed and implemented staffing processes to reopen classrooms across 150 plus schools with 3 weeks notice during the pandemic. As an HR director, when considering past experiences and expertise, a specific quality Joan looks for when identifying a successful candidate is a candidate who would be good for kids, no matter the position. Please welcome Joan O'Neill. Thank you, Joan.
Hello, thank you. I'm so excited about this opportunity to work with the Ravenswood School District as a Bay Area native. I feel very committed and very deeply rooted in all the schools in this community. And with everyone I've spoken to in this school district, I can tell how committed they are to the work, the students and the community. And I'm very excited by the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Right, is Ms. Conti here? Oh, there you are. Okay. Well, you should know who Ms. Conti is. She's our program specialist, and then we would like to appoint to the role as Assistant Director of Special Education. So Claudia Conti is a Bay Area native who began working in a special education almost 21 years ago. She founded and taught for 13 years at a local deaf and hard of hearing center, catering to students who needed access to all modes of communication. She joined the Ravenswood team in 2016 as vice principal at Castagna School of the Arts. In 2019, just before the pandemic, she was asked to join the special education team again and has led our work to support preschool age children who need special education services and support, among other responsibilities. Mental health coupled with academic achievement for all has always been the heart of Ms. Conti's work. She has always believed that every single child on this earth is capable of anything they desire. And that is our job to believe in them and to give them the tools necessary to fly. Her goal as Assistant Director of Special Education will be to ensure that our students of Ravenswood are seen, heard, and respected day in and day out. Ms. Conti, do you mind coming to the front?
Hi, everybody. I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited about continuing the work that we've started. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, behind the computer. We have Michael Shaw, who's been our systems administrator, who we would like to appoint as our Assistant Director of Technology. Since 1998, Mike Shaw has worked to provide IT services to public schools from pre-K through university. Throughout his career, Mike has filled roles such as technician, data analyst, network specialist, and systems administrator. Mike Shaw grew up and attended public school in San Mateo County. Working and living near Silicon Valley, including the last decade at Ravenswood City School District, Mike's goal has been to provide students, teachers, staff, and families with high quality computers, infrastructure, and security when those resources are often scarce in public schools or absorbed by the valley itself. Michael Shaw, please come up.
Thank you. I'm excited to do everything I can to continue our award-winning technology services here in Ravenswood. Supporting our tech team to just kill it every day at the schools, and making as much space as possible for Solomon to use all of his intense experience, like to think a little bit bigger and do a little bit more for Ravenswood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. There's one more. Thank you, Mike. And we have one more as well. Unfortunately, he's not feeling well, but we would like to appoint Reese Matsumoto as Director of Finance. Reese Matsumoto has been working as a Strategic Projects Coordinator for Ravenswood for the past 2 years. In this role, he has been instrumental in the business office's efforts to realign the district's budgeting process. He has supported principals and department leads to develop thoughtful and high-impact budgets, coordinated around the use of new grant funds, and helped lead the back-end creation of the Ravenswood 22-23 budget. And that is Reese Matsumoto. And that is it, trustees.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Welcome and thank you for choosing Ravenswood.
With that being said, I will entertain a motion for item number 12, the approval of the personnel recommendations.
I move to approve item 12.
Thank you.
I will second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0.
Congratulations.
Moving on to item number 13, which is the consideration to approve the assignment of Stuart Hirashi. Apologies. As vice principal at Bellhaven.
Thank you. So CTC requires us to present this as a public item at a public board meeting. And we are asking you today to approve the employment of Stuart Shiriishi as vice principal at Bellhaven Elementary on the basis of a waiver for the next academic school year. If you remember, he served on a credential waiver this current school year as well as vice principal and has served successfully. He will complete his coursework in February of 2023 and will be eligible for his preliminary administrative credential at that time.
So through the chair, so we're extending the waiver that we originally approved.
That's correct.
Okay, and has he been on time? It just takes this long?
That's correct.
Okay,
Any additional questions or comments?
well, I have expressed how I feel about waivers. And I think I said at another meeting, I wouldn't approve any waivers when they've exceeded the initial allowed time, but given that this specific waiver is still within the time frame that was allocated, I will conservatively say yes, but I am not a fan of waivers. And we should try to recruit people who already have credentials and experience. And with all these salary increases that we are doing, we should be able to do that moving forward. So I hope we don't have a lot of waivers coming before us in the future.
In my understanding, there was more than one waiver we approved of last year, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
So this is the only one this year?
We have a VP who decided to not continue as a VP.
Noted, thank you. If we don't have any other additional questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion for item number 13.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve item 13.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0. 4-0, yes. Thank you, Tony. Now to number 14, which is the consideration to adopt the declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
Yeah, so this is a procedural item that CTC requires the district to adopt prior to issuing any of the following items. An emergency CLAD English learner authorization, emergency bilingual authorization, emergency assignment for a resource specialist, limited assignment permit for single subject teaching, and then any specific special ed limited assignments. So this item before the board today just allows us to present a document to CTC that will allow the district the flexibility to apply for these documents if needed in the future.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? See none, I will entertain a motion for item number 14.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 14.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item, thank you. Moving on to item 15, which is the consideration to approve adoption of 6th through 8th grade English language arts curriculum.
Good evening, President Latu, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Sidaria. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce members of our ELA Pilot Adoption Committee. They've done an incredible amount of work this year reflecting on several curricula they're going to speak to this evening. So I'd like to introduce Ms. Rachel Spector, Ms. Kim Dayton, and Ms. Gretchen Schwartz.
All right. What you've been waiting for all night. English language adoption process. Here we go. We'll take you a little bit through our process and then essentially take you start us off where we are now, move you through the process, tell you about our pilot, and then our recommendations. As you know, the current adoption is Summit Learning Program, and teachers did struggle in terms of with modifying that curriculum to best meet the needs of our students during the pandemic and even before the pandemic. So we started looking last year at different curricula. So basically in April of 2021, we were kind of requesting different curricula that were state approved on the state adopted list, and then pre-screened in May and did a paper screen in May, created our own criteria at that time. And the pilot was all year long, just wrapped up about a month ago or so. And
Apologies, can you talk closer to the mic?
closer to the mic. sorry.
As well as just a reminder, if you're having conversations or any other noises, can you please step out? Because we can barely hear you. Thank you.
Sure, sorry. And then we will move into planning at the end here. More forward. Okay, got it.
You
Here
can
we
take
go.
it off if possible.
I might need to take it off so I can see that. Let's do that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Makes me want to sing though. Okay. All right. So we started off by creating a vision statement with this team. And by the way, that team, I'll go through the full team, but we have Gretchen Schwartz, Kim Dayton, Kyle Tana, and we created a vision statement together. And this, I'll just read it. We believe that at CCRMS, strong English language instruction is at its core anti-racist and reflective of our diverse student body. We leverage high quality instructional materials to make our program social, joyful, engaging, and relevant. Staff, families, and students work together in learning alliances to promote literacy and unite the home, school, and greater community. We graduate students who view reading, writing, listening, and speaking as tools for empowerment as they enter high school as self-directed and articulate critical thinkers. Gretchen, doing the work. So from there, we really detailed out, if that is our vision, what actions will we see students doing, teachers doing, families, and our school community. And this is still a draft that's under construction. We'll revisit and we'll ground ourselves in this as we do the planning work and kick off the year next year. There's a lot there, so I'm not going to go through all of it. From there, so after creating our vision, we use that to build our criteria. So what we needed to be able to achieve that vision. And those ideas fell into these three categories. Most importantly, we discovered that teachers valued high quality reflective texts that were reflective of our community for the anti-racist work. That, as well as some important pieces here being like a strong structure that is something that so a strong foundation of learning routines that teachers can then build from. Because we do have a variety of new teachers as well as more veteran teachers. So there needs to be strong bones there for everyone to sort of have for as a backbone. Yeah. And so another big one on this list was components for emergent bilinguals. And what else? We asked the teachers actually to rank later on in our pilot process, which of these criteria they felt were for them personally the most important. So those were just a few. So from the paper screen, after that, we chose two. Yeah, we chose two to actually pilot Mirrors and Windows and My Perspectives, both on the state adopted list. And so from there, we planned sorry, let me jump back to our team. This should probably have been earlier. We had every single staff member in the English department pilot with us. That would be our SPED teachers for each grade level, a total of 12 teachers piloting. And then the committee members are Kyle, Rachel, Kim, and Gretchen at the top. We met every 2 weeks to kind of debrief and plan. So the plan we put together had broken the year into 4 parts, 4 units. We've got, we ended up continuing our first pilot with My Perspectives longer than expected because we in the moment realized teachers were not ready for the lift of changing curriculums after that. At that point in the year, coming back from the pandemic, it was just going to be too hard of a lift on people. So we did continue My Perspectives, gave it another try. and then transitioned into Mirrors and Windows later in February. And finally, there's like a little mini unit there at the end. We thought we'd give another curriculum and another chance with it. And 8th grade did go back to my perspectives. They felt strongly about going back to it, while other grade levels did novel studies at that time. All right.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Schwarz. I teach 6th grade language arts and social studies. And you want to introduce, and then this is.
Hi, I'm Kim Dayton. I'm also a 6th grade teacher, and I'm the 6th grade special education ELA teacher.
This part of the presentation, we'd like to focus on the planning and then the delivery of instruction within our classrooms and what our students gained from it, what we gained from it as well. And so as you can see, at least if we started with my perspectives, we felt that one thing that we definitely loved about my perspectives is that it has this consumable workbook that really allows the children, as you can see in some of those pictures right there, to do some highlighting annotations. The features of the My Perspective book also allows for us to, not just when you hit multiple reads, like if we do a first read to build their background, but really like hone in on specific analytical skills within reading and writing that we would go back to and like focus on and like be able to build strong instruction around our mini lessons and like really engage in having kids have authentically read independently on their own, annotate, have come up with their questions, synthesize any of the information, but also allow for them, because it was another big piece in this curriculum, allow for us to have those meaningful conversations around the text.
Yeah, so as a special education teacher, I am always looking at how are these curriculums going to support our students that may have specific learning disabilities and are sometimes coming in with significant difficulties with receptive and expressive language, or coming in with a lower than is desirable reading or writing level while still making progress towards grade level. And my perspectives had a lot of texts that, first off, were really engaging for the kids, which is a big deal when you're working with kids that are struggling. They need to actually care about what they're doing. It also provided things like adapted versions of many of the texts that allowed you to kind of pinpoint focus on certain areas without having to worry about the complexity of a really long piece of text. So they still got to work with grade level text without being overwhelmed by the amount of it. And just the number of different texts that were there and the tasks that were there were reasonable for kids. They were engaging and they pinpointed the skills that we most wanted to work on.
Another important key component to my perspectives that we like to, it also lent itself, as Rachel had brought up to like with culturally responsive teaching, of really using text that is current and relevant and meaningful to our students, that the students can see themselves within the text as well. I mean, we're just glossing over it, but as you can even see on these like 2 examples right up here, it's just the way it lends itself to create opportunities for speaking and writing about their reading. And what we noticed with my perspectives, it does kind of circle back into skills and like ask the kids to collect evidence as they're reading through these units. And as you can see here on the left-hand side, these are thematic units to teach with. And so from a veteran teachers like Kim and myself, we were able to kind of really dive into like looking at this curriculum critically and going, oh my gosh, you know, the materials that are rich for enhancing instruction. And even yesterday, we had the opportunity to have a work day, and we are currently like working on some planning around this for next year, looking at it a little bit more, but just getting really excited about the many opportunities for reading, the writing about the reading, the talking about the reading, and then the kind of opportunities we can have around talking, around writing. This year, like in my class, I can speak from my experience, I had my students produce a lot of essay writing, a lot of writing that I would share with Rachel that ended up being shared with new teachers and with other grade levels to see as exemplars. And I do have some, I wish I had them with me in the presentation, and some conversations too, like that organically have grown around some of the materials that we have read that again are pretty current.
not the best, but I'm not, not every curriculum is perfect. It's workable. Oh, I'm sorry, you can hear me. I can go on and on. And then again, as you can see up here, I'm going to turn it over again for mirrors and windows. Is there anything else we wanted to add?
Yes. So with mirrors and windows, we did have a visitor, an in-person, we actually had visitors, trainers visit us from both curriculums. So we had on April 7th an all-day in classroom support with 7th grade teachers launching their digital platform, their online annotation features, which was really interesting to learn about. They did have a strong online platform, which we all appreciated, and some really diverse quality texts to choose from. But when we looked really at what was available on mirrors and windows, it didn't even compare in terms of the robust, especially when it came to assessment and rubrics and writing support. It just didn't even compare. So I'm just going to jump into why we ended up choosing my perspectives. This was a Google form where we actually asked the teachers to compare both, but we did do separate Google forms to score against our criteria, both of those curriculums separately. So this is the comparison for diverse text. This is about emergent bilingual support. There were definitely more resources available versus nothing available in Spanish for my mirrors and windows. And then finally, this meant a lot to me personally, these meaningful standards aligned, well-developed performance tasks. 100% of teachers felt strongly about that. And if you were to go back briefly, this is an example of a performance task, is to write about and present about the answer to that question. So they're very meaningful, well-designed tasks. So we're happy to say we do believe that this will be the curriculum that can potentially be a foundation for us for a long time. We hope to not disrupt this foundation over and over again. I think that tends to be the way, in my experience, we disrupt our foundation a lot. And I'd love to be able to stick with this for a bit and really get good at it. It provides many at-bats and practice, as you said, Gretchen, chances to go back and practice skills over and over again, lots of embedded modifications for our special education teachers to use, strong differentiation, components for bilingual students. We're excited. We're excited about it. When we look forward, though, there are some challenges that lay ahead, always in writing. That I think is really more about finding quality professional development to help teachers become great teachers of writing. So a few things, figuring out how to get kids into the productive struggle and spending more time in that DPD with reading and writing. Also, again, more support for emergent bilinguals. There's never enough. It's always the case. No curriculum is quite ever going to be the perfect solution. And then, yeah, reading in small groups, specifically in writing instruction, will need support. And thank you for your time. Do you have any questions for us? Yeah.
Through the chair. What kind of support are we going to have from Savas Learning when we adopt this curriculum throughout the course of the life of the curriculum?
We, I believe, received a quote that would involve professional development time, hours on site with the planning. So if we wanted one-on-one or group planning time for curriculum mapping, as well as, I think, whatever we want the focus to be on, if it's writing or if it's on small group instruction, we can request that.
And the trainers will be sent out from Savas Learning? We
Yeah,
don't
I
have to
believe
provide them
so.
ourselves.
There's a certain number of hours that we would be, I'm not sure what the quote or what we will agree to, but yeah, in person, on campus.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be curious when that's all finalized, the number of hours we'll get from Savas Learning
Yeah.
as we do this adoption, because as a teacher,
Yeah,
the ramp up to learn a new curriculum is very, very intense. And the teachers have a very short amount of time to ramp up when the school year starts.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to hit the ground running in August when we come back.
I don't recall the specific number of hours, but it is on the quote attached to the agenda.
Great.
And Rachel and I, she may not even know, we have an email in our inbox to select the dates for them to come out at the beginning of next year already. So yes,
Great.
that's part of the adoption purchase.
Thank you.
Through the chair. We just hired an assistant superintendent of curriculum and learning. I forget the technical title, sorry, teaching. And this is going to be implemented for the new school year, correct? So is she familiar? I mean, her responsibility is going to be to oversee the effectiveness of this. And to Trustee Bronwyn's, Alexander's point, implementing a new curriculum, going through that intensive process of shifting to that, to then spend the year realizing it is or isn't a good fit based on a recommendation from the, future assistant superintendent of instruction and teaching. I'm just wondering about the timing of this, if this is the right time, or do we allow for the new assistant superintendent to come in and evaluate and see if this is our best foot forward? Because what I don't want is in 2 years' time where, with no input from, our future leadership, we end up having to switch this sooner rather than later.
I'm going to speak as if I recall this conversation, that there has been connection around the curriculum. Jen, did you want to speak to that specifically? But I also want to get credit to the
That's true.
ELA team at the middle school as they've been reviewing for the past year. I think it's been this whole entire year reviewing the curriculum. Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, I was just going to highlight that the middle school team worked with Brackney Consulting through Instruction Partners during the pilot process. And when we began the pilot process, it actually began at this time last school year. So they started in, I believe this was in the April of last school year. So this has been a year and a couple months in the making, where they originally just paper screened all of the curricula that is state approved. Then at the end of the year, you purchase pilot materials, and then the pilot materials arrived in August, September for both, and then they piloted throughout the year. So it is like ironic that it's happening on the same night, but this has been a year and a few months in the making. The same for the science adoption that's coming up next. So the team has been working with consultants who have a lot of experience with piloting to go through this process. And so it's been a year and a couple months, if that helps.
So we did present that we were doing this pilot this year, that we would be bringing this, because there is a timeline where you have to share to the board the process for the adoption. And so we did bring this to the board
We're just,
the timing.
yes, I get all that. And I get the process that we undertook.
Right. We
ahead of
did use
time,
the
but we're bringing someone on board that's overseeing all this
Correct.
work. So
Yeah, I mean, to the credit of the instructional team, we did use also other experts to help us just calibrate our decision. And I believe we do have the support from our future assistant superintendent to proceed. And then if we were to decide about this curriculum last year, the new assistant superintendent would need to work with the current curriculum. But I think at this time, we've had experts outside of Ravenswood also work with our team members to support us with this decision.
Our assistant superintendent that we just approved has already seen this curriculum.
I'm not sure
She's
if
saying
she's
yes.
seen it, but she is.
She's nodding her head, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, going back, I have a question about going to the quote summary. So what Trustee Alexander mentioned, is that the professional base amount? Is that where the professional services are coming from?
The $8,400.
Yeah,
So I see 8,400 for Perspectives Professional.
so that's the professional, those are the people that are gonna be training. With that, so the 125,000, is that for the 8-year life, or is it, yeah? Okay,
Through the chair.
because so the lowercase ILIT and success maker is something different. Because on the quote, it says that there's an annual subscription for those two services. So if it's an annual subscription, I just want to make sure that,
Oh, that's for digital,
so that's
the
separate from-
digital materials. And then you have the 106,000 for the curriculum itself. And then you have the 8,400 for the professional support.
Okay.
Through the chair. I want to note one thing or two things. One thing is this is a price quote summary, and they said this is a quote. This is not a contract, right? We're looking at a quote summary, price quote summary, and at the bottom it says this is a quote. This is not a contract. This is a price quote for the customer's convenience only. It is not an offer to contract. All quotes are subject to review and final acceptance by an authorized representative of Savas and its offices. So I just want to make that very clear that we are voting on a quote. So is
On the
there going to be a
curriculum.
contract that is going to come back to us that is final for us to make the thing?
Yeah, as
decision?
soon as the curriculum is board approved, then we can go through the purchase order process. So we need the board approval before we purchase it. So that is the quote preceding
the
the
contract.
purchase order, which is the final purchase, because we couldn't purchase before we had board approval, if that
Clarifies. Thank you. The second thing I would like to ask the teachers is what is the student response to this specific curriculum? Because we heard a lot about how the teachers really liked it and teachers like teaching it and it has all these things for the students. So I would like to know, I know the teachers said that there are a lot of essays written, but I would like to know like, what was the students' response to this? They don't, but you know.
Yeah. When it came to both curriculums, the one thing that I actually did with one of my classes is I gave them back because we had done my perspectives. We had done my perspectives at the beginning of the year, and then we had continued the unit also going into December, January in the mid-year part as well. And so I had given them back the workbooks, and I had them kind of do a scavenger hunt. And I just said, here's some recommended titles and the page number, and then would the future sixth graders like it? And if you can just give me an idea. And so most of the stories that they just referenced, I would be some of the stories that we had already selected. Again, trying to find something that's going to be engaging and popular with them, from blog posts to to magazine articles to fictional stories. And then, and of course I had some students also, as they continued forward, going through and looking at, we should have read this. This would have been great to read a play. And, again, not having enough time. So having those conversations with them as well as just like looking at stories.
Yeah, I had similar results. I found my kids to be more engaged in the selections from my perspectives. The fact that they were thematic units, I think, was really helpful because it was easier to kind of compare the stories and keep some of the threads going through it. Mirrors and Windows, while it has some great selections, it tends to focus more on skills. And so there's not necessarily kind of a theme weaving things together. And so that made it a little bit more difficult to get the kids into more of like a flow with their work. It was just kind of like, okay, now we're doing this selection. Next week, we're doing this selection. And it didn't really feel very connected to them.
And then at least for the writing pieces, and that can only represent for sixth grade, but two writing genres we focused on were narrative writing and argumentative writing. And so the narrative writing ended up lending itself to be pretty appropriate time-wise because the unit was a thematic about challenges and experiences, challenges, life. And it coincided with sixth grade going to outdoor ed in October. And that ended up lending itself to being great moments to write about because for many of our students, it was their first time, and it was a week of crying and telling the kids, you're going to be okay, you'll survive it. And as they came back, it really did it brought on some great stories. And then another piece that we did was around technology has technology improved our lives? It was one of the focus questions from my perspectives. And it did bring up great conversations. And it also allowed for me to also push into other classrooms to help the teachers with the argumentative writing process and get kids to have conversations. And like, that's a big focus at RMS was
having students have academic conversations around the curriculum, around their writing, and like using academic vocabulary. And so a lot of our students were like, you know what, my claim is I would like to say this about technology. And we're just like, well, let's try it with the side, like try to take a side or the opposing side. So it did lend itself to some discussions.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Through the chair, just to bring clarity to Trustee Polito's question, because I understand the timing of it all. I want to clarify that an assistant superintendent doesn't unilaterally make the decision. There is a committee and it is a collective decision-making process analyzing multiple curriculums. I think the role of assistant superintendent around the curriculum is to ensure that first it's a state board adopted curriculum and that it really meets the expectations around the instructional core. Is it engaging? Does it meet the rigors of the standards? And our teachers going to be able to be equipped to be able to have the strategies and tools to implement it, and that we have the right task in front of the kids. And the presentation here seems to demonstrate that they decided between state adopted curriculum that Perspectives is the best option moving forward.
Any additional questions or comments? I will entertain a motion for item number 15.
I'll make a motion that we approve item number 15.
Thank you.
I will second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. I will abstain. So the motion carries 3-0. Moving on to item number 16, which is the consideration to approve adoption of 6th through 8th science curriculum.
How about now? Oh, there we go. Sorry, didn't mean to scream. Good evening again. I'm really excited to introduce our 6th grade science and math teacher, Sal Signs. He worked this year in partnership with STEM for Real through the pilot process, which began last year. STEM for Real is the same partners that we used when adopting our TK5 curriculum, which is FOSS. So I'd like to ask Sal to come on up.
Good evening. So again, I'm Sal Signs. Not only am I a 6th grade math and science teacher, but I'm also the science department lead at our middle school. So yeah, we're here because we're super excited to present to you this curriculum that hopefully not only will we use it for a couple of years, but hopefully it'll be here for a long time. And we put in that hard work.
There you go.
So these are just some of the topics we were talking about, just the current status of science at Ravenswood, just NGSS time and just looking at it at the district level, our curriculum pilot process, and just the recommendation that we're going to present to you today. So if we look at the current status of science in the district, since 2013, the adoption of next generation science standards in 2013 were not set yet. And it wasn't until 2018 when the State Board of Education adopted NGSS time, which is a toolkit for instructional materials evaluation. And in 2021, that's when the district decided to partner with STEM for Real to facilitate NGSS time. And that's how we were able to get FOSS Webs last year. And then this year, hopefully we'll get Green Ninja. These are just some quotes from our teachers on Summit, which is what we currently have. A lot of lesson gaps. Unit mapping was a struggle. Differentiation was very tough for our kids because there wasn't very much. very limited for our student body. So many instructional minutes that it became very difficult to really, as teachers, to really manage and put into 45-minute blocks or 50-minute blocks, and consistency of it, right, with our schedule. And a lot of our students who had limited English proficiency, students with IEPs, and that culture responsive aspects in the curriculum of Summit was very limited or not there, which is super frustrating, to be able to get kids to be able to learn this, our curriculum with limited information that supports them and who they are. So kind of the adoption process that we looked at, we actually got to look at 15 curriculums. We looked at 15 science curriculums, and we ended up narrowing it down to 4. And those were Inspire, Green Ninja, HMH, and TCI. And those got to the paper screen. And out of those 4, we ended up with Inspire, Green Ninja, and TCI to pilot. But we didn't end up piloting TCI because we felt it was not a strong enough curriculum based on the scoring that we got compared to Inspire Science and Green Ninja. So we decided to, instead of doing where it's only 3 months, 3 months, and 3 months with 3 different programs, we decided to pilot 4.5 months and 4.5 months with 2 to get that more stability, especially coming back from a pandemic year of teaching. We really wanted to make sure that we had more time with the curriculum. So this is just kind of phase 1, showing how hard we worked at the beginning. Right, coming back after we said, hey, we can come back to school. So we came back in April and, hey, we want to think about piloting a curriculum for next year. And all these times, and even added more because, we think some of us like to talk for more and talk about the curriculum. So we spent more than these hours, but it was definitely from April 29th through June 3rd, we put in that work to really look at all these curriculums and to decide, hey, which ones are we going to pilot next year? So we put in definitely a lot of work, and it felt great to be part of that process. Some of the members of the adoption committee were Nico Janik, myself, Martin Sanders, Sarah Ressler, Ashley Henderson, and the STEM for Real team that we partnered with, which was Dr. Lena and Anna Newman. We try to get representation of all the grade levels, as well as one of our SPED teachers to be part of the adoption committee, so that, again, any questions that arise within the curriculum, any stuff that we wanted to make sure that we addressed before deciding what to pilot, we felt like we had a strong team to decide that. Just some pictures of us working hard. So the next phase was, okay, now we're piloting, and from August to December, we were working on Green Ninja. Every science teacher piloted Green Ninja, so 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. Total about 9 teachers. And on January 5th, that's when we had our first evaluation of Green Ninja. And then May 18th was when we evaluated Inspire Science. Inspire Science, we went from January through today. So we spent a lot of time really making sure that we took the time to really break down the curriculum, go lesson to lesson planning, unit mapping, and we're at this moment. At the beginning, this was also, we were thinking about an instructional shift, where we really want to think about how Ravenswood, how we can incorporate more of in our science curriculum, because we really wanted to personalize it, especially after I've been teaching here for 5 years, and we've had at least 4.5 different curriculums in my 5 years of teaching, which is very frustrating. So we really wanted to bring in that presence of what our students need, what our students want, and how it could support our teachers as well. And this is kind of the Ravenswood City School District vision, but we wanted to focus on the evaluation criteria for science, such as the use of phenomena, presence of logical sequence, the students just figuring out the science, right? Less us talking, but more them actively engaging, actively having those discussions that are rich solutionary projects, 3D performances that go with NGSS standards, and just focus on culturally responsive curriculum and tools for equitable instruction. We also wanted to incorporate a case study analysis for some of our students that we wanted to highlight while thinking of the pilot process, to where, what attributes certain students were able to highlight in the science curriculum and how we can best support them in their growth, as well as students who have differences that we would like to find ways we could, again, get them to be more involved in the science and have fun and be able to engage and make connections in science. I think it was great for us to work with STEM for Real because they, again, helped with the process for our K-5 and really pushed us to really dive deep and really evaluate it, where it was countless hours of work that unfortunately isn't as fun when you have to evaluate every single criteria. But the fun part was working together and really seeing how a curriculum really can evolve at our school and really make connections to where, hey, our students could thrive in this system. Our students can really be scientists and be looking at careers in STEAM. This is kind of the curriculum map for Green Ninja. Their units are a little bit longer. They're more developed over time compared to Inspire Science, which breaks it down into smaller chunks in their units. When they spend a little bit less time on, they're more specific, while Green Ninja incorporates different, like biophysics, they're more incorporated in that sense. So our final recommendation is Green Ninja. Not only did Green Ninja outscore Inspire Science, but the curriculum support that we got from Leah Tremblay, which was the representative, she was amazing. She was able to, on the spot, even while we're piloting, right? Which sometimes curriculums, when they want to pilot, when we pilot their curriculum, they don't have as much in-depth support. They'll support us in terms of answering questions, but she made it to where she changed lessons for us on the fly. She was able to adapt to some of our teacher needs in terms of being more, have an online presence, whether it's switching lessons into Nearpod. She was able to change units within a reasonable couple of days so that teachers were able to adapt really soon and be able to use it to support their students and their type of learning. They're based out of San Jose, which is, I think, awesome because they're local. A lot of curriculum focuses on culturally responsive, like they use Lake Tahoe, they use Half Moon Bay, they use San Jose, they use Fremont, they use like different locations to be represented in the lessons, whether it's, I know for my first unit, it was climate change. So we were talking about how in your area, how these places have changed over 50 years, 60 years with more urbanization and how that affects in climate change and even with the environment around the area. And they focus on real world problems and solutionary projects, which I think looking at modern science teaching, that's what we want our kids compared to that. Look at the textbook, read 25 pages, answer the multiple choice questions, right? We have to move up to the level that a lot of our other surrounding schools are teaching science, because we want our students to be leaders in science. Like we've seen the robotics club, right? They're being leaders already. And we really love the hands-on activities that support the 5E learning. We got to build wind turbines. We got to build our own climate-friendly home in sixth grade, to where the kids had to really think about engineering and think about how using consumables can really affect based on the heat, based on cold, based on different factors. And that was, I think, the kids just being able to be hands-on and have something in their hands and be able to change it as they think and be able to learn from that. I think that's probably just one of the most genuine moments we've had in science in a long time. And you could easily translate it in Spanish with a button, which helps a lot of our student body, which I think for us teachers, in order for us to stop translating every single assignment in Spanish, it's just a wonder for us to be able to just one button, it goes from English to Spanish. Yeah. For next steps, I know for English, you guys talked about the next steps. STEM for Real, we're trying to get a contract with them. Hopefully it gets approved. But they're trying to work with us for the next year or two, at least, to set up lesson study cycles to really dive deep into lessons, especially within 45 minutes to 50 lessons, and seeing how we can go through the 5 E's in each lesson. They also want to facilitate observations of teachers, student work artifacts, and analysis of student work to transform teacher pedagogical practices, which is what we really need at our school, to be able to go through the pedagogical process of science, which, again, something that hasn't been supported at our school for years. We also want to coordinate lab support for science teachers to ensure proper implementation of Green Ninja through a culturally responsive lens. So really having that time to come in, help us with the labs after as well, and just see how we made connections with students and how we can improve those connections if we notice things that didn't fly so well. And for them, it'll be on a weekly basis where we'll meet, and a bi-weekly where they'll come in and actually meet with us. But on a weekly basis, we'll probably Zoom, but on a bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, they'll be at our school site working with us. And then Green Ninja also, with Leah Tremblay, her team will also be coming to our school to really launch the curriculum for Green Ninja and really get us to look through the curriculum, look through the unit mapping, and work on those pacing guides so that we could have success in our first year. And they have different levels of support every year. So the first year might be like a very basic support in terms of getting us running, understanding the curriculum. And the second year will really probably break down lessons. And the third year will be a different type of professional development. And also, we do have a California science test in 8th grade. So our goal is to really prepare our 8th grade students from 6th grade to 8th grade to be able to show, hey, they can score high in the CAST, and really think about the science teaching and pedagogy with our students. And that's pretty much it. And just like the message, we want to empower our students to engage critically and creatively in their education, the skills and mindsets. Thank you. And that's just a testimonial for myself, but I'm here.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Through the chair, just one note that I know in the proposal, you said you want to work with STEM for real. Is that
Yeah.
STEM for, yeah, and Green Ninja, but I just want to note that this is just for Green Ninja. This adoption is just for Green Ninja. It's not for STEM for real. So my question would be, can this curriculum, because we have to like decide about Green Ninja. Do you feel supported with Green Ninja without STEM for real? Like, or is this something that is coupled?
Like a twofold?
Yeah, is it a twofold thing? Like we're accepting Green Ninja today, and then later we're going to be accepting STEM for real? And maybe this is Ms. Gravam question. So.
The way they supported us this year for Green Ninja, I'm 100% that they can support us through the curriculum based on curriculum, which means that STEM for real is there to support our teacher practice, which is different than curriculum practice. The Green Ninja is focusing on science curriculum and how our lessons look at it that way. But STEM for real will look at our teacher practice, diving deep to grow within the teaching practice of science, not just as a whole, which is something we need, because a lot of our teachers want that experience breaking down NGSS standards, which again, they're relatively new, within the last 5 years. Yet, as a teacher that I grew up in the system here, I have not been properly educated to be able to dive deep into NGSS standards. And I would love that support. And I know a lot of our teachers, especially because we get new teachers every single year because of the turnover, they would really benefit from a STEM for real support. Although I know your question is about Green Ninja, they would really support us in just diving deep into their curriculum and their lessons and how their units match up in 6th grade, 7th, and 8th grade.
Okay. And then my second question would be, I know that you said that they are Bay Area or San Jose based. And so you named a bunch of areas, and I just want to make note, and if Green Ninja is listening, we're East Palo Alto, we are Bellhaven, and we literally have the Baylands right next to us. There's soil samples they can collect. There is the Baylands right there. Is that something that can be wrapped into this curriculum with Green Ninja? And, I'm making a note. I guess it's a statement and a question, like make sure you let them know, hey, you need to write a curriculum around East Palo Alto, because I think that it needs to be included, or at least the Bay, Cooley Landing. So thank you.
So this part is just for this part of so we will eventually come back for the additional contract with STEM for Real.
I believe so.
And that will be an additional cost on top of the 283,617.
Yes, that is correct.
Can we bring up the slideshow, please? Oh, disappeared. Never mind. So I have it. Can we go to slide? Oh, geez. Slide 14. I mean, when it comes down to my previous point with the additional contractor STEM for Real, I do want to make note that that's part of isn't that part of the contract for teacher development with our previous raises? No?
No. STEM for Real? No.
Not STEM for Real in itself, but weren't we saying that teachers did have the option?
Oh, the professional, yes. So
But
there's
this would be a sense of professional development, no?
correct, but we want to be more intentional with STEM for Real to be able to make sure that we offer it and it's available to all middle school science teachers. And I don't know if it'll be optional, but I think for sure we want to make it built into the professional development cycle of our calendar for 22-23 that will allow everyone to be able to participate within the regular work year. Any additional costs for additional professional development outside of the regular work day, there's other means to be able to get that funding and be able to support teachers. But this would be built into our professional development calendar.
Yeah, because I think for me, I like the concept of there being a new curriculum and then all additional support. And I think, one thing that you mentioned earlier was the fact that they were willing to adapt the curriculum to fit Ravenswood needs. Like, I think that's something super important because we want stuff that is going to be something, I'm not saying that our students can't use everything that we teach them, but I think it hones in, because when I see this slide, some of the area issues that our community is currently facing, water, climate change, pollution, waste. And so these are like Unit 1, energy and climate. Like, these are all the things that our kids and their families are facing when it comes to climate change within this community. And so for us to have a curriculum where they're learning about it then, like younger, is going to, in my opinion, I feel like it's going to strengthen our young people to grow up and be able to broaden their reach of what areas that they want to focus on career path-wise. So for me, I like the concept. I just want to make sure that it does come in a twofold and not just the approved half and then, the other half maybe.
It sounds like we're not going to have trainers from Green Ninja. We're going to have folks to support us with understanding NGSS standards, who can then help us implement Green Ninja curriculum.
Yes, I mean,
Twofold.
over time, they will be able to make more that diver deep of the NGS standards. Green Ninja can, and that's in their. I think it's in the proposal. I think they show the years. Every year there's a different kind of like that twofold process.
Super organized. I like the year by year.
Yeah.
But then I also like the letter that the co-founder wrote. I thought that was very fun. Yeah. Me and numbers. Anybody else on the board would like to comment?
Through the chair. So I'm going to be watching this very eagerly, as some people here know that science is one of the things that I was a science lead, and It's one of the things that is near and dear to my heart. And I know that science in the elementary level tends to be one of the things that's taught when you have time. And so I want to ensure that our elementary schools are making sure that our students will be successful once they come up to the middle school to be able to engage in thoughtful science with Green Ninja. And with that, how well does Green Ninja lend for the kids coming out of the elementary program? How easy is the transfer from the elementary program to Green Ninja?
I think a lot of the units, especially in sixth grade, are pretty universal. When you think about climate change, the very first one is understanding that, hey, we actually play a game. The first lesson is actually a game. It's called, I forgot what it's called, but basically we're trying to save the land from flooding. So we're trying to fight off carbon emissions. And a lot of the kids this year especially were able to make those connections right away.
Great.
Because especially with social media and especially right before the pandemic, when we talked about a lot of our young kids are very eager about helping out our planet. They're very intelligent in terms of making those connections, and they're able to then properly find solutions. And our goal this year, our first unit, was to find local solutions where kind of board member Ms. Bloom was talking about in terms of like, how can we make it to what's within us? And I think being able to incorporate how land pollution, looking at a lot of our streets sometimes, or even air pollution, which I'm sure, it's a huge impact being East Palo Alto being right next to a commuter area, right, where so many cars come through here. I think Green Ninja did a pretty good job of asking those questions where we have those discussions, and kids are able to make those connections to their home life, where a refrigerator, whether a light switch is on, whether you're recycling, whether you're composting. So I think Green Ninja is able to make that connection, and hopefully I would love to talk. I'm hoping that eventually we're able to have a vertical alignment between not only the middle school, but to make those connections with elementary school to see what they're teaching in fifth grade and fourth grade. So we could be able to then be more attentive to be able to make those connections quicker, so that we empower our students to make those connections, especially the students who don't participate in vocally, right? But they are able to make it in different ways with the showing off that they know a lot.
And the CAS test is, because I know the fifth grade science test is all standards K5. Is the CAS test all standards 6-8 or all standards K8? I know I'm looking at Jen right now.
I'm pretty
Just
sure
6-8.
it's
Okay.
6-8, yeah.
Great. Thank you. I'll make a motion that we approve item 16.
I will second. Aye.
Through the chair, I just wanted to make sure I extend my appreciation to the teacher leaders and the coaches, Sal, Gretchen, Kate, and Cam, and Rachel. Thank you so much. Nicole, I think maybe you helped us with a little bit of science then. Okay. But I just wanted to make sure I extend my gratitude for the time it took for you all to really invest in this and make the decision on behalf of the kids. So thank you so much.
Yeah, the adoption process is long, tedious. It's not easy. I've been through it many times being on adoption committees, and your commitment to doing this for the students of Ravenswood is admirable. Thank you.
I will make a motion to open the hearing.
I will second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we will formally open the public hearing.
So short. Good evening again, President Latu, members of the board, and Ms. Sudaria, Superintendent Sudaria. I am here to present on the local control and accountability plan.
This is being tricky tonight, isn't it? It's because Solomon's not here. That's why. There we are. So just as a reminder, what is the LCAP? The LCAP is a 3-year district plan that focuses on the 8 state priorities that are listed here: student engagement, school climate, basic necessities, implementation of state standards, access to courses, parent involvement, other student outcomes, and student achievement. To kind of put the LCAP in perspective, here's a timeline from 2017 to 2024, which sounds so far away, but really isn't. You see at the top, they're layered in our 5-year strategic plan. The team in 2019, well before 2019, put in a lot of work to develop a really strong strategic plan to take us through 23-24. With all of these plans, it's really important to the team here at Ravenswood that we don't have tons of plans that aren't united. And so our intention is really to bring a unification of all of our plans so that they all drive towards our overarching 5-year strategic plan. So you'll see here there was the 17-18 to 19-20 LCAP. Let's see if this is working right here. This right here is the LCP. I really wish they chose different letters. It's momentarily confusing, but the LCP plan was the intermediary plan when we were all in COVID. And then we've just come back to this 3-year cycle of the LCAP from 21-22 all the way through 23-24. So that's how those plans layer together. And then you'll see here the SIPSAs. The SIPSAs are a single plan for student achievement, and those are developed by each individual school site. And the idea here is the SIPSAs, which are the site plans, align to the LCAP, which aligns to our overall strategic plan. So you will see a lot of goals and actions within the LCAP that are going to sound very familiar to all of you from our work with the strategic plan. And that's a little graphic of a star. All right. I mean, it's late levity, right? So here's a summary of our goals. We have 8 goals. Again, these are all going to sound very familiar to everyone. Standard aligns instruction, safe and joyful environments, retaining high quality staff, engaging our family. These goals down here, 5, 6, 7, and 8, are called our focus goals. And those are goals where we drove deep into the dashboard and other data to identify specific areas that we wanted to focus in. And we wanted to focus on reading goals for our students with disabilities, middle school mathematics, reclassifying our multilingual learners, and really creating a schools where our students feel a strong sense of belonging. So what I'm going to do in each of these slides is note at the top a few standards and identify our key actions from our LCAP, some highlights, and then some focus areas of growth. So we were very excited about our TK5 and 6-8 science adoption. TK5 was FOSS last year, and you just heard about science, as well as our 6-8 language arts adoption. Going into next year, we are going to be looking at TK5 ELA, as well as ongoing training for our recently adopted curriculum. Like was pointed out earlier, it's important to not just purchase a curriculum, hand it, and then say, do that, and walk away. And really thinking through the difference between what is a training versus what is a professional development. A huge part of professional development is our new evaluation system. This year, we're in a soft launch. And a big part of this launch is to really look at the California standards teaching for the teaching profession incredibly deeply. Also, collaboration. It's really important that, as Mr. Sines was talking about, that vertical alignment as well as just at each site, but also between 4th, 5th, and then 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, making sure we bridge that gap. We've had a strong focus on professional development in the areas. This has been an incredible year for focus on science for our TK5, as that's a new adoption. We've also been looking at phonics training with a few different curricula, as well as site-specific local site-based local needs. Looking into the 22-23 focus, I mentioned already about curriculum adoptions, but with the evaluation system, really looking at a deeper understanding and application of the CSDPs and having a uniform understanding across all of our classrooms. We have a lot of collaboration going on, but what we really want to do is connect collaboration to our MTSS system and use data to make informed decisions for all of our students on an individual level, as well as a macro level when we look at the district in its entirety. Looking at professional development, a lot of work around trauma-informed and restorative practices for our students, the standards for mathematical practice, English language arts, specifically in the areas of phonics and developing strong readers in early grades, and English language development. Thinking of safe and joyful environments, engagement, and creation of a safe sense of belonging. Some of our highlights are that we have counseling at every single one of our school sites, multiple counselors at most of our larger school sites. In the area of attendance, in a year of COVID, attendance has been a different thing to consider. We've been working a lot on shifting our mindset from not at school being a punitive thing and really being a question to talk to our families about what's going on, what's the underlying reason, and how can we support. We have an incredible amount of consistent partnership meetings. We have weekly parent workshops every Monday, monthly meetings with the superintendent, several site-based events and performances, and we're really looking forward to the world continuing to open up more and more. And we've found that we really miss having everyone on campus together in community. And I think you've heard a little bit tonight through the adoptions that there's a strong commitment to our anti-racist work. We now have a DEI coordinator, and we're using an anti-racist lens when we analyze everything that we do. Another big push for us has been looking at qualitative data in addition to quantitative data. In terms of the areas of focus, especially around qualitative and quantitative data, when you have qualitative data, it's really hard to put up a graph and say, these are the numbers. And how do we use all of these conversations that we're having with families and quantify that in a way that helps us make that true systemic change? So that's something that we're all grappling with. We also want to continue to connect counseling with our MTSS processes, further our work around mind shifts around attendance. We want to track that qualitative and quantitative information when we call each family and we find the underlying reason for why their attendance is low. Is there a trend there? And is there a way our district can provide more support? Sorry, my eyes couldn't focus on that tiny writing, so I apologize that it's so small. In addition, with COVID, we now have opportunity for hybrid events to make sure that our families can come, whether they can be in person or not. And that's been a huge benefit for us, and we hope to continue to do that as well. We've also begun engaging in what we call empathy interviews. And what those are is we meet with either a student, a staff member, a parent, and just ask a question and listen. And in that process of listening, we're learning how we can best support our larger community. Looking into reading, math, and reclassifying our language learners, we're incredibly excited, maybe me the most excited. We have exited CSACE, which is a special education mandate, which is comprehensive coordinated early intervening services. That is a state compliance measure, and we will be exiting in September. So we are out from all compliance measures in special education, which is really wonderful. We've also created a system to track progress in reading based on students' IEPs using a science of reading based program. So we're excited about that. In middle school math, we've had a partnership with San Mateo County Office of Education with a focus on the standards for mathematical practice, specifically SMP 1 and 2, which is around perseverance and critical reasoning. Another point that we'd like to share is that we reclassified 66% of our language learners who are at level 4 as proficient in English. And then in terms of special education students who are duly identified as students with special needs as well as language learners, we've created a process by which we assess whether they should be reclassified in every IEP meeting to determine if it is a language need or connected to the underlying disability. So we want to push through with those goals as well as push harder. We want to standardize our tracking systems. In terms of mathematical practice, the word perseverance stands out to us. And we all know when there's a problem, persevering through that problem at any age is incredibly important. But how do we quantify that in a classroom? How do we look at whether students are persevering through these challenging mathematical problems? We want to look at how can we measure that growth and continue to see it move forward. We want to identify and overcome barriers for multilingual learners in reclassification and continue to our work in reclassifying our students who are dually identified. Some data points this year, we traditionally use the California School Dashboard, which obviously this year has not been up as a result of COVID and not taking those standardized tests. So we focused on local assessment to develop our LCAP. In addition, I've mentioned a few times that we have looked more closely using street data. And what that means is satellite data is data that you look at from way above, like the CASP. It's one moment in time, all students, you get 1%, whereas street level data is looking at an individual student on an individual day and the data that you are getting during instruction and making instructional choices based on that immediate data. So that's a very quick overview of some of the components within our LCAP. Our expenditures are aligned with our LCAP, and you'll hear more about that when Will talks about the budget.
Wonderful. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? As I see none, thank you for your presentation. I will adjourn. Oh, do we have any public comment? As I see none, I will adjourn the hearing for the 22-24 local LCAP. Now I will move on to item number 18, and I will open the public hearing for the 22-23 RCSD proposed budget. There's a typo in the last.
And through the chair, just for clarity, you adjourned the hearing for the LCAP at 9:25.
Yes, 9:25. And the 22/23, right? Okay.
Who's the wrong fiscal year?
There's a public hearing also.
Good evening. We are pulling up
Public
the
hearing.
slides for the. budget
public hearing.
1 second.
This is also a public hearing.
Yes, this is okay.
So should we open it before he starts?
We can do it either way. He can present.
We already adjourned the first one,
Right.
so we have to open this one.
He can present to give background and then we can open up for public hearing.
Okay.
Good evening. Presenting the SY 22-23 proposed budget. This is a sort of culmination of a long process that began really in December when we started the enrollment projections. We were able to update the board earlier this year for the first time, I think, giving sort of greater transparency about our school budgets. And tonight we're presenting the sort of complete budget for the district. I'm going to walk through a lot of things here. I'm going to go through relatively quickly. I will not go through sort of the final 3 sections here, but I just want to let people know that they can see the sort of specific line items for each school and for the entire central office in this document. We'll also be posting that on our website later. But so for those who are sort of interested in perusing as we're going through some of the summary here, they can do that. So we have a couple sort of big goals, I would say, for the budget this year and sort of aligned with past years. The first sort of big priority we have is just continuing to implement the strategic plan. We've made a lot of progress over the last few years in this regard. I think probably the biggest financial investment, obviously, has been the sort of very significant investments we made in our staff, aligned with strategic priority number 3, I believe, to really close those gaps. So that has been, I think, sort of the big financial focus of this year and obviously going into next year, continuing that. And will continue to be sort of a focus as we continue to seek ways to bring in additional revenue. The other big thing that's happening this year that we're very excited about is, as we mentioned during the school budget presentations, we are sort of going in, call it whole hog on transitional kindergarten, TK. So we're opening up a lot of TK classrooms across our schools, and we are investing in new furniture, new curriculum, new instructional staff to open up a new TK classroom at each of our elementary schools. This is also the first budget that reflects sort of our new, leaner, more efficient central office. As part of the reorg, we did reduce the number of overall FTE and the total cost of our central office. And we're continuing to kind of realign our central office to make sure that it's aligned with the fact we have seen declining enrollment. It's often difficult to reduce central office relative to sort of more fungible or student-related costs like teachers or instructional aides. And the last goal, and this is a little bit of an important one, but certainly one that I think is very relevant to the business office. Stimulus funds are set to expire in September of 2023. There was a recent report I read that something like 9% of stimulus funds that have been allocated to districts have been expended. That is not the case with us. We've been working really diligently over the last few years to spend as much of our stimulus funds as we can, increasing our per pupil spending to sort of record levels, while also building up our reserves, because we know that the need is going to continue past the sort of September 2023 timeframe here.
And you're going to highlight how much we still have left, right?
How much of the stimulus funds we still have left? I don't know that we have that number in this presentation, but I can get it for you. I believe the number is something like it's somewhere in the range of $5 to $7 million. It'll depend a little bit on how much we're able to sort of reallocate within this exact fiscal year onto next year. I believe the number that we budgeted on though was about $6 million. So just tactically sort of how we're moving through these goals. The first is just to highlight, and this money did hit this year as well, but we did receive what we're calling bridge funding from REF. So this is funds above and beyond their initial contribution to help the district cover the increased compensation for all of our employee groups. Because of that, and because of these different grants, I do want to just highlight our overall per pupil expenditure has gone up 80% in the last 5 years. And will be the highest in Ravenswood history. We've also aggressively gone after unique funding opportunities. So we're getting $1.2 million in state grants to assist with expanding our TK program. We've gotten a new community funds grant. We've made a bunch of sort of targeted reductions across our schools to kind of also just realign our budget as we go. So we're getting more money. We're being really careful about and aggressive about how we are sort of reducing overall spending. We've also, as mentioned, spent down our stimulus funds, setting reserves aside. And finally, I mentioned this at the beginning, but I want to just reiterate it. It's been a real priority of ours to just be as transparent about our budget as we can. So every line item is in this presentation. It's in plain English at the end. Our budget website is not quite ready yet, but it will be on the 23rd, we promise. So people will be able to see it there as well. And obviously these reports are also all available on our new and improved finance office website. And of course, we do report every single month all of the payments we have to anybody who's not a district employee. And all of our salaries are also available online in a bunch of places. So we do think this is sort of the most, every year I've been here, I think we've gotten more transparent. This is gonna be our most transparent year ever. All right, so let's talk about the actual sort of money here. I think, I've shown various versions of this graph over time. We're in kind of an exciting place where the enrollment declines are going to stop. We sort of hit the bottom, which is really exciting for us, right? It gives us stability to plan. We're sort of settling in at this new level. And so here's kind of where we are. We're forecasting at this point a slight expansion, an actual increase in the number of students. I'm a little skeptical we'll end up hitting that goal. It sort of assumes that a lot of our TK classes are fully subscribed, but it's possible. But we do think it's going to be sort of around this level. This doesn't forecast anything like a lot of Tinsley students coming back, charter school students coming back yet, because they're conservative. But we do hope that over time we start seeing more and more students return to Ravenswood. We hope those numbers will go up even more. Because of that sort of decline in enrollment, at the same time, I know I've talked about this before, we've seen a pretty big increase in our local property taxes that has flipped us last year into basic aid. This year we went back to LCFF. Next year we do expect to go to basic aid again. And that means our revenue will start to sort of grow from that. So here's sort of our revenue by source. And you can see a couple of sort of big things. One, general fund declining a little bit. Ref increasing, not necessarily as much from this year to last year, but obviously overall historically increasing a lot. That last bit sort of stimulus spending, and then everything else looking somewhat similar other than the sort of different grants that we've gone after and received. This is sort of just a slide to kind of hit home. Our stimulus revenue has come in over the last 3 years. It's gone up. Accordingly, we've built up our reserves while still increasing our per pupil spending. Now it's time, starting in 23-24, so not next year, but the following year, to kind of start dipping into our reserves, right? We're still above that 17% reserve target the board set earlier this year for our sort of economic uncertainty reserves. But we are going to start chipping away pretty steadily at our reserves as we gradually spend down our stimulus funds. Turning now to expenditures. I mentioned this earlier, but we are spending more per pupil than we ever have. And the increase has been pretty significant. We went from $16,000 a year, not that many years ago, to over $28,000. Just want to put this in context with sort of how we fall across the rest of the county. Everyone's expenditures have gone up, right? The average school district in the county, their expenditures gone up at 15%. Ours has gone up closer to 80. That does not mean, you can sort of see where we are in that graph, even though we are sort of at the far end, just in terms of how much we have expended per pupil. When you account for student need, we drop back down to average. So just when you use, I know we've talked about this group, but just in case anyone new is listening, when you account for some of the different weights you get in LCFF funding or the state funding formula to account for student need, and you factor those in on a per pupil basis, we no longer are sort of a high sort of wealth district or high per pupil spending district. We really drop back down more to the middle. And that again includes record levels of stimulus funds and other sort of one-time funds that we're really trying to plan for sustainably, knowing that those revenue sources are not going to be coming in continually for the long term. Just to talk a little bit where our resources are going. And most resources are people. So really talking about where our people is going is talking about where our money is going. We've focused, and you can see this on the left side, of really kind of getting our central spending down a little bit. That number has gotten a little bit bigger over time. We're trying to sort of get that down to maybe 7%. We're not there yet, still around 10%. But most of our money goes to either what's SSBC, those are school supports budgeted centrally, things like transportation. And then about half our budget, a little bit less than half our budget, goes directly to school budgets. Most of our budget goes to people. And some of those non-personnel expenses also are people, but they're things like contracted special ed folks who do show up on a contract line, but really are sort of effectively people. And then just in terms of who those people are, the vast majority of those are educators who are at sort of the individual site levels. You can see that those are folks in blue, with some folks who sit in the central office here in green, as well as sort of in light green, the maintenance operations technology people who are kind of, or transportation people, excuse me, who are kind of in between the school sites and the district. There is a lot of detail in this presentation about where exactly our expenditures are going, so I'm not going to spend too much time going through that, but do just want to reiterate, we have this great budget website. It's very interactive, very user-friendly. You can see those details there, as well as just all the presentations, audits, reports on our revamped budget website. We're getting close to the end of this graph. I know folks who've longtime budget watchers have seen this graph quite a number of times. potentially sick of it. But this is basically, appreciate the pity laughs. This is basically just our stimulus funds over time. You can see those in orange. We've gotten a lot of stimulus money. We've used that to build up that green line, those reserves. And then we do plan on running deficits, right? We do plan on running deficits from SY23 to SY26, maybe longer, where we spend down those reserves that we've built up to kind of just keep that amount of money we're spending per pupil relatively smooth over the next few years. We do not want to have a fiscal cliff. We have worked really hard to avoid a fiscal cliff, and starting to, I don't want, knock on wood, but I think we're going to avoid that fiscal cliff because of the amount, our ability to build up those reserves and then spend them down over time. That will involve, just to be very clear, we will be running deficits intentionally past sort of next year. That's our anticipation as we spend down that reserve. So over the last 3 years, we're thinking we will have saved somewhere between $25 to $30 million. We'll know more when we close this year out, and we'll know more sort of as we get a little bit further into this year. So we're given a bit of a big range there. But that is that money that we're sort of planning on spending down. Now, we won't spend down all of that because we are going to maintain that 17% reserve target for economic uncertainties that the board sort of authorized as a target earlier this year. But things above that 17%, that's what we'll be sort of using to spend down. And folks in the audience who are sort of interested about where exactly are those savings, they're in Fund 17. We put them in a special place so we could say, these are the funds that we're going to be spending down. I'm not going to go through each of these unless there's any questions on these specifically, but you can just see for each school, for each sort of place in the central office, you can see, these are the specific expenditures. You can see a description that makes sense. You can see the total cost of those different things. So won't spend a lot of time sort of going through each of these other than just to let folks know they're there. And they will be up on our website as well in a couple different places. And with that, I will conclude my presentation.
Through the chair, we had looked this up in terms of process to make sure, and we actually learned that we do not need to do a vote to take action to open and close a hearing. We just need to make sure we mark the time, provide the opportunity, and then mark the closing.
So we didn't need to vote on the previous one.
Which was why I was trying to slickly just keep going. People kept reminding me that I made a mistake.
All right.
Yes, I made a mistake last hearing. So yes, we will open the public hearing at 9:40 p.m. Do we have any questions or comments?
No, I would just like to say thank you for this report. I think it gives us a great understanding of where we're at, where we're going, what we need to do. So great job. I mean, years ago, we used to get these big binders that didn't give, a comprehensive summary or executive summary in this case. So I appreciate the work you're putting into not only making this easier for the board to follow, regardless of their background in finance, but also the community. And I know we've also increased our transparency with our community as a result of some of the efforts that you have put in place, like the website. So I just want to say thank you for that.
I really appreciate that. And I would note the information contained in those binders is still available on the website. So it's not that we've
I'm
got rid of
aware,
those binders,
yes.
they are still there. This is more a supplementary document. Just
They're like these, I don't know, 1,000-page binders. And it's like,
I want a binder.
you just had to dig through it on your
can't
own.
find a binder. We have plenty of binders in my office. I'd be happy to get a binder for you.
Any other questions or comments? I think I do have a comment. Thank you for the presentation. Super thorough. I love seeing that same chart. It just, not a board meeting unless we see that chart. But I think my only comment is, I don't know if our board, I think we have historically had a budget subcommittee. But I just want to bring that back up because with the standard of living continuing to increase, our numbers fluctuating, and our attempts to retain quality staff, but also providing an adequate education for our kids, I think we should start prioritizing finding other means of maintaining our budget that's not on one-time like funds. And so I just want to bring it up to the board to eventually, have a conversation on bringing back a subcommittee, because I think it'll be a great.
Through the chair, I think actually there is a budget subcommittee and trustee Chabot Maheen is on it.
I can actually
Okay.
find the names if I get a chance to look it up really quickly, but yes, trustee Chabot Maheen.
I
was
know
on it
she's
last
one
time.
of them, and I'm not.
I can look it up.
And then that's one of the reasons also why we've been doing a lot of work in the facilities committee around leasing our non-used properties for that reason of generating revenue, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
we always talk about what we're losing, right? The deficit, but that's one of the reasons why we have to maximize the leases and how much we generate from these leases, because otherwise we will not be able, with everything we keep approving, with all these salary schedules changing and all these salary increases, we won't be able to afford any of it without these leases that we're going to be either approving or not approving within the next couple of months. Because that will not only cover that, but we're hoping in the best case scenario, it'll actually also allow us to invest money into educational programming. So.
So through the chair, our subcommittee members for budget for 2022 is trustee Chabot Maheen and trustee Alexander. Surprise. Okay.
Maybe trustee Latu wants to trade with you, trustee Alexander.
Well, I have some ideas that I want to send your way. Continue on. Do we have any comment, public comment? Sorry, as I see none, I will close the hearing at 9:44. Moving on to item number 19, which is the update on the contractual negotiations on 2120 Euclid Avenue.
Mhm.
Correct. We were going to actually pull
Speaking of
this to the chair. We were going to pull this item, but as a reminder, we would like to be able to bring the contract.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
As a reminder, we would like
I
to,
can't hear you.
oh, sorry. We intended to pull this item as we want to be able to prepare a complete contract to present before the board. So we will do that on June 23rd for review and then allow that time over the summer for trustees and folks to be able to review that. And then we'll come back August 11th for a vote.
Sounds good. Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none. Moving on to item number 20, which are board reports and communications.
Through the chair. The Aladdin thing tomorrow is at 5 p.m., not at 6. I said 6, but it's Friday at 5 p.m. at Castagna. Thank you.
Through the chair, I just want to wish all the teachers and staff and students a safe, fun, relaxing summer vacation. And don't forget to read every day.
Through the chair, just congratulations on another year to all our employees, classified, certificated, everyone involved. That was a big lift, transitioning back to in-person. Desperately needed, and I hope that everyone was encouraged that yes, in Spanish they say si se puede and si se pudo, which means we could do it and we did do it. So just kudos to the whole team for making that transition back to in-person smooth for our students and our families.
Thank you. I just want to highlight that we had a joint meeting between the city of East Palo Alto and the school board. And it was an interesting meeting, but one thing that I want to continue to push, especially to our constituents, to the public, especially our kids, is that we need a more in-depth safety plan when it comes to walking to and from school and just around our community. And so I will continue to work and push the council and our city to either reestablish or share a plan so that we as a school district can work towards creating a safer community for our families.
Right, and through the chair might be our next intergovernmental committee meeting. We can schedule that around that topic and urge for that plan and that collaboration to take place. Because to President Latu's point, at our last meeting, we were left desiring more information and wanting a thoughtful presentation that reflects ensuring the public safety and especially for our students. So thank you.
Moving on to item number 21, consideration to approve resolution 21 /22-26 board member excuse absences. I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution for Vice President Shibumi.
I will make a motion to approve.
Oh, I already moved it. Just a
Oh,
second.
sorry, I second it, sorry.
Resolution number 2021-2022-26, whereas the education code allows board members to be sick.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0. The next regular board meeting will be held on June 23rd, 2022 at 6:03 p.m. and open session will be at 7:15 p.m. I will adjourn the Ravenswood City School District Governing Board meeting at 9:48 p.m. Thank you.